So would you like to have a better listing that gets you more sales, traffic, and ranking on autopilot while you sleep or sip margaritas at the beach? Although we don't believe in passive income here, we do believe that there's things you could do to make your listing work for you. So I'm super excited to be joined here by Noah Wickham. We're going to be talking about listing optimization and how you can have a better listing that gets you better results. All right. So, as we talk about listing optimization, I want you to be honest here. Is your listing your best salesperson, or is it scaring customers away? Both they don't want to buy from your listing, and also the algorithm doesn't know what to do with your listing. So, oftentimes you'd like to think you are Leonardo DiCaprio in Wolf of Wall Street, but you end up being more like this. So today you're going to learn quite a few things. We're going to talk about some listing optimization tactics, some mistakes to avoid that we see quite a bit, as well as we're going to be doing some listing teardowns and answering questions. So you can get live feedback on your actual listing and you can learn from the listing mistakes of others. And so there's no bad mistakes you're making that like we're going to laugh at you and say, "Oh, you shouldn't have done this." It's more, this is what you could do better. So what we're going to do here is if you would like us to take a look at your listing, just drop ideally the link to it, not just the ASIN, into the chat.
If anyone throws their click-through rate for their listing or their conversion rate onto that as well, we'll put some priority on that, because getting
Ah,
that kind of data as well can help us show you what you need to improve on. So
okay. Okay. So
fantastic.
you guys all have homework. Go into business reports and start looking some of that data up. Unit session percentage would probably work just fine for what you're asking.
Yeah, unit session would probably be fine. You could go to search query and tell me your top
Hmm.
ranking keyword and what the click-through rate is. That would be good too. Let's dig into this, guys. So a couple of things. First off, we have this listing here. So what are some of the things in general when we are looking at a listing, and what do we want to theoretically say is like perfect case scenario for a listing? Well, first and foremost, a couple of things. I'm always going to be looking at number one, the main image. Why do we look at the main image? Well, the main image is essentially your billboard for your product. The main image is what people are going to see on the search page when they search any keyword that you are indexed or ranked for. First and foremost, they're going to see it on your advertisements as well. It is the one thing and the number one area to start getting specific clicks onto your actual product. People look at the main image first and foremost. So always going to be the first thing that I look at whenever I look at any product. For those that are uninitiated and haven't been around before, we have an entire page dedicated to what we call the main image hack. Main image hack is very simply put, essentially changing the main image to make it much more user friendly and make it show off the products for how you should get click through. So you can see things here, specifically different areas with the main image hack of showing age 6 to 12, increasing the click through rate for a specific keyword. So, looking first and foremost at Tony's here. Now, this is a very, very interesting product, primarily for one reason only, and that is because it's a piece of glass. Well, I guess not glass, it's plastic polycarbonate, plexiglass sheets, right? Or stronger than plexiglass, I guess is his thing here. So, couple of things. Let's talk about this main image. So I think many of you could probably call out immediately a few things that are wrong with this main image. The number one thing I'll call out first and foremost as a problem with the main image, and that is that you have a white background on this main image when you are not supposed to have any form of background whatsoever. So this is something that I'm surprised you haven't gotten the product taken down. Might be a category thing because the type of product, but definitely one thing I would look at is just having only the actual product. Now, these look like a bit of a both photography and a little bit of a 3D render at the same time, from what I can kind of see here, especially when we're looking at things like the lines, how you're doing all of this. Now, a couple of things I would immediately kind of call out here to you is I'm just going to call out this. You are essentially advertising Spectra glass polycarbonate, right? So polycarbonate and glass are probably two of your big things. Spectra, I'm not positive on your search volume. We can do something like this, where we just look at Spectra. So immediately, I don't see anything about Spectra glass as far as search volume goes. All Spectra seems like completely different from this spectra as far as brand name goes. So what I'm looking at is changing your main image, not to have a logo and not to have this giant spectra here. The primary reason is that if somebody is going through your search at some point in time and looking at different main images, they're not going to see this 200 times stronger than staring glass. They're not going to see all of these. They're just going to see spectra when they are scrolling through. And even just looking at this, if you notice on my screen right now, can't read that, right? And so one of the
Mm.
big things always is to just check to make sure, are we actually showing the number one keywords? So your number one keywords are likely going to be polycarbonate glass, right? And you do a decent job within your title as well of showing, the polycarbonate plastic sheets. I would probably change your title as well. So, two areas of immediate just that you can look at, Tony. Anyone else who has a product very similar to this that I would start looking into would be changing up your title. So, a couple of things with your title is that 24 by 48 and then one fourth inch thick, right? This is basically what people on mobile are going to be able to see. They will also see this right here, the Spectra glass. So when you are looking at this product on mobile, the actual title itself is going to just show this, which is not going to tell people whatsoever what the product actually is. Instead, what I would do is I would take this 24 by 48 1/4 thick as well as Spectra glass, and I would move all of this probably to the very end of your title, right before the Made in USA or right after it. Instead, I would have the clear polycarbonate plastic sheet as your first thing within this. This is going to likely be your highest search relevancy keywords for your title. So that's one of the very first things I would do as well as, like I said, update this main image. And I think those two things alone should increase your click through rate pretty substantially just immediately off the bat and looking at this. Now, the rest of it, we can talk and dig into a little bit of these as well. One of the things when it comes to something like this, again, this is what I usually call is like a nothing burger image, right? So
Hmm.
anybody else who is looking at their own listings, I want you to look at your listings and look at the second image. If your second image within a listing is nothing more than just the product and then just the product name or anything like this, just an image of the product, I would immediately say that's a red flag, right? It's fine to have an image like this. In fact, an image like this does really well as your final ninth image. The reason is if your main image ever gets taken down, it'll replace it with that ninth image. So that's one area that you can definitely look at doing, but this is a nothing burger of an image. Instead, you should be moving your entire image stack up and have this near the end. So, from a first look, I think this was a good first ASIN to actually do because it had pretty much each of the main click-through rate aspects when we're looking at any type of product. But we got a ton of them, so let's move on here. All right, we have Dan. So Dan sent in this product. Kevin, what's the first thing that you notice?
That weird 10.
Yeah. What is this?
It's, I guess it's like more than 10 of the product itself,
I
making a
think it's
number
that they
10.
get 10 of these, right? So
Yes.
I think it's that they're getting,
I'm
yeah,
surprised
so
this
they
hasn't
get
been
10, I
suppressed.
bet. So this is 6, 10, 20, 50. I'm baffled, Dan. I gotta be honest that you are able to get away with this. I would suspect you won't be able to get away with it for very long. And, to be quite frank, now the secondary aspect that I will mention here when it comes to this main image, I have no idea what this is.
Hmm.
This image tells me nothing. I'm sure if I'm somebody who's looking for something like this, I might, but even then, the actual images themselves are so blurry that I'm not positive, what this is, especially when looking at the entire. If this is a connector, which I can tell it is, obviously. So it looks like a lamp socket connector, right? Immediately looking at this, all of the pictures that you have. So this image right here where you have this is a great image because you're showing the entirety of the connector. You're showing exactly what the connector is, what goes into it. So this is a great image here, Dan, of the actual product. I would look at, if you can rotate this image, put it upright, and then if you can, add potentially just a light bulb or a socket into the main image as well. Because currently speaking, looking at this, I mean, I'm sure this is a very niche product, right? And people who are
Hmm.
looking for it will know it. But at the same time, if you have any other competitors whatsoever who are within this same, market, then their main images, this 10 is not going to fly forever. I mean, even the 6, not going to fly forever. So I would absolutely look at that from your title aspect there, Dan. I like your title. I'm not a huge fan of the rest of the images, so one thing I'll immediately call out is very, very small text. So, one thing in particular there for anyone here listening on your secondary images, if you are going to add text onto your secondary images, always, always, always make sure the text is large. I'm sure all of you can see I am a glasses guy. I am blind.
Hmm.
I take these glasses off. I can't read the chat. I can't read this screen whatsoever, right? And so, big thing if I am someone who is shopping on my phone or on desktop in general, and I am looking through images, right? And I'm just scrolling, even if I'm on the product page, if it's super small text, I'm not going to be able to read it. So, try and blow up the text, especially when you have all of this blank space. So, you just have all of this white space everywhere that is just blank with nothing around it. And that's not the worst thing in the world for a product like this. I don't expect you to, add a colorful background or anything like that. So when you have technical products like this, it's very good to just keep it very basic, very user manual, I guess is the best way to put it. I do like these showing off like the different bulbs, the different connectors, things like that. This works okay. I would still probably maybe put a connection chart within here as far as an
Mm.
image goes, but something like this, second image again, same thing. Second image again. It's just the product, a bunch of blank white space. We just have tons and tons of on all of these just white space that we're just not utilizing when we definitely could be. So I think some immediate from a design perspective updates we could make there. And this is just confusing to me here, Dan, because honestly, this is a really nice brand story. You got a decent A plus content. Is it the best in the world? No. And this is such a better image of your product. So this should be your main image right here. Like this is a better, it's clearer, you can read it, right? Like this is just a better image of your product that I would probably add immediately. Especially looking at sizing, because like now I'm like, this looks way bigger than what I would imagine from this, right? This looks super small. Now it looks super big, right? So I know it looks like you guys can do some decent design work. So, I mean, it's a thing. This 10, I'm baffled again that it hasn't gotten you taken down. It definitely will at some point in time.
No, I definitely agree with you on that. I'm kind of baffled by it too. Maybe the only reason that it hasn't gotten taken down is the algorithm thinks 10 is just product image because it kind of
Maybe.
is.
And now that I know it's a 16% conversion rate, right? I can dig into this even more. Dan, the big thing, I know that this is a very technical product, right? Somebody who is looking for this product, likely you're probably not in a very high competition niche in the slightest, right? But that being said, if you have a 16% conversion rate, it means that the people that are clicking on this product are likely to purchase it because they know what they are looking for and know what they want. If you can increase your click through rate and keep your conversion rate, that's going to drive your sales to the moon. So I really would look at, especially knowing this is a very technical product. Again, the only thing I really don't like about this main image is that I just can't see all of the connector. Just
Mm.
blurry. I can't see all of the connector. This is such a better image of the connector. And it also, you can even read, the actual text there. I almost would be tempted, Dan, if you could, to take this image of the connector or the one from down here, and then if you can in Photoshop, maybe even outline all of the text with inside the connector in like black so that people can actually read these specific connecting points because they're probably I'm guessing usually technical. These connector points and all of this text usually means something. You can have two connectors that are the exact same, different rating for the actual voltage, things like that. So honestly, that's how I would just update the click through rate there, Dan. And if you can keep your conversion rate fairly close with that, I would say it's great. Now, this one, where we're at a 2.82% conversion rate. So very different, not 16% like his last one. Any immediate callouts that you can see here, Kevin?
The main image is too much of like store looking product packaging. And it almost looked like they just put the store's product packaging on a counter and just took a picture of it.
I think that's exactly what they did. This looks like it's just a picture of the actual. I actually can't tell this part, this top part, the 100 pieces and stuff, and like these, that this entire white box, I think would be photoshopped on, and then
It
they're
might
just,
be, yeah.
yeah, they're just
The
took a
corners look kind
picture
of
of it.
funky.
Yeah, so they took a picture of it, and then this is photoshopped on from what I'm guessing. Immediately, my first impression from the Photoshop on here, Dan, would just be from a click-through rate, 100 pieces, fantastic. 40 pieces, 40 pieces, 10, 10. Again, we have a very technical product. White on yellow. That's going to be my complaint for this. White on yellow. Can't read it, especially for specific type. If somebody's in dark mode, for instance, on their phone, you're not going to be able to read that in the slightest. Even in light mode like this, I'm having a hard time reading it, right? If somebody has their brightness up too high, anything like that without enough contrast, that's going to be a problem. So we actually have a little image, Dan, if you actually send an email over to podcast@myamazonguy.com, we will send out our design image of our color chart. So what colors go together and which colors you can utilize for text on backgrounds. So send that over, and we'll get this updated. I would definitely change from the yellow on white. Even just do a black here would be fine realistically. Rest of the designs, I mean, look great. The only thing again is this looks like same thing. I can't read this at all. I don't know if any of this is important from like a specifications aspect. I'm not sure, especially with a technical product, it probably is. I can't read this, so I would make sure that these specifications are written out. You have a bunch of blank space here, so I might honestly move this down, and then put the specifications up here as bullet points. Fast clip. This is a great image. I like this
Hmm.
image. This is an AI image, but I like this image. This is also AI. You know what, Dan? Credit to you. These are some of the best AI images I have seen thus far. I can definitely tell. This one, yeah, this is also AI. Dan's doing well with the AI. I'll be honest. That looks decent, I will say, as far as AI. You can tell, like, this is a better version. I think he probably just took this and turned to AI. I
Hmm.
like this. This honestly should be like your second or third image, though, Dan. This is good as like a fourth image showing the actual product itself. The only other aspect I would probably look at here, I think that this makes sense. People are looking for fast clips, obviously. I've done some electrical in my life. I know, the generalities of it. Your title is a little misleading in the sense of what you're actually doing, especially when you're saying 100 pieces. I would probably rather than just like saying 100 pieces, probably make sure it's known that this is split out. You're going to avoid returns in that capacity. You're going to be able to show how many of each type of connector. That's going to increase your conversion rate. Because if people are looking for only, let's say, a 4 tier or 3 tier connector, and then they see that, for instance, those they only get 10 on, that's probably going to decrease your conversion rate quite a bit. So those are my initial ones.
Is this Roya's?
This is Roya's.
Roya did give us some click-through rate information and impressions. 12K impressions, CTR is zero point 0.9 to 1.3. It's ranked 15,400.
Okay, so Roya's given us a bunch of information. CTR 0.9 to 1.3. That's actually not bad for CTR. I'd be curious what your conversion rate is here, Roya. If you're sitting at 1.3, 1.4 for, is there more information there? No, it's not. Okay. So let's look at this product. So looking over immediately, I actually like this main image. I think the main image, to be honest, I will say this type of main image hack might get taken down at some point in time. I will just, I've seen this last for a long time. It's very category dependent. In the pet category, you tend to be able to get away with stuff like this a little bit more frequently, especially if there is a dog there. So,
Mhm.
not the worst thing in the world here. Now, that being said, it is fairly small. It's the only aspect. And you also are still leaving a lot of just blank space. So, all of this right here, where we're looking, all of this is just white space we could utilize. The thing that I would probably do here, Roya, to potentially increase, and I think you even said a little bit earlier that didn't increase sales, but increased CTR. Because I'm looking at this product, I remember it now, and some of the things that I had shown in the past for Roya as to what they should do, as I believe I did a coaching call with them, but decreased returns, right? So Roya's made a great success in changing some of the designs based on some of my previous to be able to decrease the number of returns that they're getting. Now, let's talk about increasing CTR and potentially conversion. Number one thing I would look at on the main image is that the main image shows somewhat what it is. The only thing that I would probably include here is potentially adding into the background a box, right? So a packaging of some kind where we immediately just show off the fact that our title, our top keywords, right? Hands-free dog leash. So hands-free dog leash, anybody who is ever looking at their product, you should look at your search query performance. You should understand and know immediately what is your number one keyword. We have a SOP as well on main image jacket. So one of the very first steps for figuring out is going to your brand analytics, going to your search query performance, and understanding what is your top search query word, right? How do we figure out what our top search query is? And then as well, going in Cerebro and figuring that out to be able to add that as a main image hack. So you'll see, for instance, here, barbecue caddy, right? Instant thing. That's what we're doing. We're adding packaging into the back. Luxury lavender products. We have Victoria's lavender here. We have protein for her, right? Oil-free, lightweight, age-defying. Our top keywords. What are people actually searching for from a search query performance standard when they're looking at our products? Well, with that in mind, we can safely assume that hands-free dog leash is Roya's top here. So what can we do to increase click-through rate on a product like this? We have this image that works really well. The only other thing is that we would probably want to add that product packaging, something just in the background to show hands-free dog leash. Always assume that yes, you can have your top keywords within title. Always assume people aren't going to read anything that isn't on the pictures for your product. So this common thing we always say, text is for robots, pictures are for people, right? Easiest thing to look at for increasing or making a listing like this one better is simply that, increase your click-through rate. If you have already decreased your return rate in general, that's a great start in my opinion, especially for a product like this where it can be a bit confusing, I'll say, on how to utilize and how to best grow. Now, secondarily, increasing conversion for a category like this, it's going to be very price dependent. So yeah, I think you're in a decent price range. But I think click-through rate is going to be an easy thing for you because if you can get some more clicks, especially 1.3 isn't necessarily what I would consider bad. Now, if that's your organic click-through rate, I think you are probably missing the boat quite a bit on the organic. Now, if that's your paid click-through rate, that's fantastic. But organic-wise, 1.3 is going to be a little bit lower. I'm usually going to want to see people closer to around a 2.5 for our organic click-through rate. So looking at that, I think that's the number one thing you can probably work on here overall. I remember this. Roya has fantastic A plus. The only thing I would say, I do like this how to use. From a SEO perspective, I think we might be missing out just a little bit. We do have some crawlable text here, but that's the only other area that I might update here, Roya, would be your A plus content. Add a little bit more crawlable text across the board. Even if it's premium, I still think it would be a good bet. So yeah, I like this one.
Awesome. Let's go to Adrian next. Adrian's kind of towards the bottom at 1:24 p.m. She gave us a 0.86
Ooh,
click-through
Adrian,
rate.
Adrian. Okay. Okay, couple of things immediately. We got a couple of problems. First problem I'm going to tell you is that background. We're going to have a problem with this at some point in time. You need to have a white background. Secondarily, we have a ton of just blank space. I think let's start here. I don't know what your product is. I could read the title right now. I could look and understand maybe a little bit more. I'm sure if I was searching for specific keywords, I would understand it. I don't know what your title is, to be entirely frank, right? What I would do immediately here, because you just have so much blank space. I get it. Your white address labels, right? They're personalized. It's a customizable product. I do want to know that I don't know if this is an actual address, but I will also just side point away from optimizing. Kevin's gonna look up, see if it is
Yeah.
an address. This is gonna be close to where Steven probably lives, actually, because Alpharetta is like right outside Atlanta. And I think
It comes up in Google.
is so. I will immediately say this to you,
It's a strip
Adrian.
mall.
Yeah. Oh, okay. It's a strip mall. Maybe this is their business address. I'll just be honest. Throwing an address onto a main image, it's technically against term service. You can get dinged on that. I'm surprised you haven't, but Anyways, that being said, one of the things I would immediately do is you just need to say what the product is in this main image. If your click through rate is only a 0.86, it is likely because people are looking at this and they don't understand the fact that this is a customizable product, right? If I am just on the search page and looking at all of these, like, I mean, even just looking at this now, I kind of understand it where it's like personalized, right? Return. But people are going to see white address labels. I don't think they're going to understand that you custom print address labels. I think
Hmm.
they are just going to think it's probably blank. So anytime you have a custom product like this, you need to just make it known we do custom products, right? This is a customizable product. Nowhere on this main image do I understand that you are a customizable product, Adrian. And so that's probably the honestly, out of all of the advice I could give, that's the number one thing I would focus on. You can leave the background, all of this kind of fun stuff, I guess, is what it is, but you have a ton of blank space here. The image in general just it doesn't tell me what the product is, and that's what you need. You need to make sure that it is known. White address labels, customizable, those are going to be like your top things that you put on here. If you put those on here, I can almost promise you your click through rate is going to go up immensely. Because if I'm just scrolling through, especially if I'm looking for address labels, I won't know that this is customizable, right? I will think that you're probably just doing labels in general. So definitely something I would look at doing here.
What would, in your opinion, be the best way to merchandise that starting from scratch?
Honestly, I don't know if you've ever done this at all, Adrian. It's interesting because nobody within this category, look at they're right there. Nobody in this category is doing custom, right? And it's probably because I put custom in there so you don't have to, but white address labels, right?
Hmm.
Boom, right here. Like here's a personalized return one. Here's theirs, right? Here's a giant roll of them. Here's all this. This is the first one I'm seeing here, right? Where it shows future Mr. and Mrs., your text, the Miller family. This is a great example right here. This is exactly what you should probably be doing. This person is, you know, having, I would say, Adrian, if we were looking at competitors, right? I bet I'm pulling this competitor up right now, and I bet that Adrian hates this competitor. With almost a doubt, looking at the fact that they have, a quarter of the number of reviews and have been around for less time, I bet this competitor has just skyrocketed through the ranks. And it's entirely because they are doing stuff like this. They're showing how many address labels you get, what is the size of it, personalized, easy to use, designed and printed in the USA, right? Super simple, super sleek, shows exactly what the product is.
Hmm.
This is great. Now, if you do something like this, Adrian, while simultaneously still keeping, which I gotta be honest, I'm still surprised. Where is it? I'm still surprised you have this, all of this background, everything, and that probably has like helped you a little bit. But
Just
uh,
because it's different.
yeah, it's just different. I would also garner that potentially, and this is probably a big potentially. What happened to their product? Let's just go back here. I would garner potentially that at times there might be a hidden suppression because of this main image. So let's actually double check that for Adrian. It's not. It's good. But there are a few other ones, right? Oh, wait. That's sponsored. Okay. So it's not suppressed, so that's good. But yeah, I would almost guess immediately, Adrian, 0.86. You're going to increase your click through rate if you just say, how many do people get? What is the sizing of them? Say that they're custom, say that they're white labels, right? You show all that. You pretty much every title is the same for all of the products in the category. So that immediately. This is interesting as far as decorative bookends. Okay, so first and foremost, it says nothing to do with listing optimization. I guess it kind of does. Your category here, David, is decorative bookends. This is not the correct category for you. Do I know the correct category off the top of my head? No, but you are not selling a decorative bookend. You're probably going to have some difficulty within that category. I would look at potentially changing your category. More than likely, you're probably going to be something like living room decor, table decor, a couple of different type of decor categories that are probably going to help you out. So that's going to be my very first thing there, David, that I would look into. Now, looking at your actual product itself, Honestly, not a lot issue with your main image here, David. I think this looks pretty nice. I might get myself a couple of decorative books. Probably not. I'm not really a decorative books guy. I have like one decorative book. I have this. It's like a field guide to whiskey. And anytime I
Mm.
have company, I always throw this thing out there because who doesn't want to just sift through a little field guide of whiskey, right? And so, not a big decorative book guy, but that being said, I'm probably not your core audience. And look at this. The only thing I will say is you're probably gonna at some point, if you try and A/B test your image, your main image, or you try and add a new, this is gonna be your primary issue. That's gonna be the biggest thing there, David, that I would look at in the future is figuring out how you are going to replace this, as in the future it's not gonna be allowed. Now, your secondary images. Conversion wise, I mean, I like them. They're all lifestyle, is probably the one thing. They don't tell much about it. I do like that they're like blank pages and you can kind of see that, I guess. I think I understand you're going for a very aesthetic type of product here.
Hmm.
For decorative books with blank pages, makes sense. Gotta be honest, David, I don't have. Mm, I'm not a big fan of your A plus content here, David. It's probably the biggest thing. Just looking through this immediately, I don't like the A plus content. I bet if I throw an alt text viewer on here, okay, so he's using some alt text here, but yeah, I mean you don't have a ton of crawlable text here, David, which is the only thing. You're pretty much only indexable, which is your alt text. Looking at this, your alt text looks empty on, yeah, so we're empty alt text, which I guess technically you can't do it on the brand story if you have this crawlable anymore, but I would look at potentially changing that. This crawlable isn't going to be nearly as useful for you. That's probably where I would do the most. Is I'm going to guess your SEO is probably the biggest thing, David. Your design wise, not bad. I'm not a big fan, I will say, of the A plus. I can tell it's very mobile forward. It's a little long, so I think this is really cool in what you did here with this. Little big. At the end of the day, if I have, my 30 something inch monitor, I'm at like 80% zoom in, which I am right now. Um, this is a little big in my opinion. It's still taking up this much room. It's probably 3, 4 scrolls. Outside of that, I think this is actually a really well put together listing. I don't have a ton of compliments. Again, the only real thing is, I mean, I might do that, add this image in. I can't really tell. I can't read this, right? The actual sizing here. This doesn't really tell me much of anything. I mean, but again, it's a decoration and it's blank books, so I'm probably not too used to it. So the only other thing I might look for here, actually, no. I think I'm not a huge fan of this, whatever this is over here, the flowers and stuff I get. It's more of an aesthetic thing, an aesthetic choice. But overall, I don't have a ton of comments on this. Kevin, anything on your end?
Well, I just looked up decorative books on Amazon, and it's a mix of ones more similar to that with just the. I
Hmm.
do think it is a little confusing to the customer that you've got both the 4 books standing up and them also stacked up. So it almost makes it look like you're getting 8 books. But there's a bunch that are kind of that more lifestyle image where it's like
It
on a
seems very aesthetic is kind of the
yeah.
what I'm seeing.
So I would say maybe potentially do that and then or maybe try to get away with, whether it's packaging or something
Hmm.
else or maybe like the superimposed banner that goes across it that maybe says decorative books or, blank pages or whatever people care about to add to it. Just
So looking as well, I wanted to see what another category was in. I see decorative boxes for one. So he's in the right decorative accessories.
mhm.
I do see bookends. I don't know if I would really consider this a decorative bookend, though. Not a ton of different ones in here. I get why you chose the category you did. I would look at probably the people who are the top. So this guy is decorative boxes. That there's probably a reason for that, right? He's number 2 in the category. So if we look at someone like this, let's see, they're decorative bookends too. Maybe I was wrong with the category.
Mm.
That's interesting. This is not a bookend.
Right, exactly. But there are niches of products that don't have their own category that you have to kind of
Yeah,
go with something somewhat adjacent. But I guess you could theoretically use them as a bookend, like the stack of the
theoretically.
four.
I think David's doing a good job here overall.
I mean, the
Uh,
the the images are nice, like they showcase the lifestyle images well. It's just I think the main image definitely does need some work because,
I
like
do
to your
see what you're
point,
talking about now, how it kind of seems like you could get 8 here. Especially, that'll probably be the biggest challenge you have when at some point, if you go to A/B test this main image, seeing this here, that's probably going to be the biggest issue you're going to run into.
and maybe it just thinks it's part of a book, and the out because it's not people looking at it, it's usually an algorithm. I'm surprised the bot hasn't flagged that one because it's basically like a hang tag.
It is. I mean, it's just hanging off.
Armand had given us some numbers to work with, click-through rate and conversion for one of the variations. So Armand was at 125, 9.87% conversion rate, 3.06 click-through rate, which is good click-through rate for the black one.
Okay, conversion 9.87. Not bad. Not bad conversion. 3.06 click through. Good. Good, good. And he's saying for the black, huh?
And I think I've seen this one before where it's a lot of colors and a lot of sizes because it's frames.
A lot of colors, a lot of sizes. The first thing I'm gonna call out here to you, going through these colors, and this main image is not changing for the colors. Conversion rate, you're saying it's
Hmm.
9%, 9.87. I bet your conversion rate would bounce up immediately across your variations if every single one of your images, because first and foremost, I like this main image. You're showing
Hmm.
exactly what it is. It's a puzzle frame. You're showing the sizing. It's what people need, right? It's what people want. It's good. This, I don't like this. I mean, maybe add something into this white space, but everything else, yeah. I mean, this looks good. You're telling what it comes with. I might honestly, this, the stuff that it comes with, I might find a way to add that into your main image here. Again, you have a really good click-through rate, so I don't want to mess with your main image too much. But I would bet immediately, just looking through this, if you changed out your current images to reflect the actual color, and I'm trying to
Hmm.
see if any of these will do that. I don't think they will. It doesn't look like it, at least. Maybe at different sizes or something.
Yeah, I'm guessing it's because like look at all the size because every size, if they all have those same colors, I mean, you're talking about I don't even want to think of the math of how many variations that is.
Yeah, I mean it is. It's a lot, but honestly, that's probably the number one thing I would work on him on. Especially when you have this many variations, you're doing the right thing. Now,
Hmm.
the only other option here, and talking about parentages and talking about things like this, especially when, you know, it looks like he only has 26 reviews, right? So he is selling basically a product that I'm guessing he's a very new seller. I'm gonna guess that this product is not something that he probably stocks or anything. I bet that he's maybe buying it from someone else, who knows, and then having it just shipped, right? Who knows? But what I would probably do here is one of two things. Either one, remove the colors into each of their own parentages. So you could take up a lot more of the entire category immediately by
Hmm.
removing all of these different colors and keeping just the size as the variation group. Um, that's
So you mean have
probably,
a black one, a walnut brown one, a
you can do it one of two ways. You can either keep the color variation and then just do all of the different sizes, or you can do the different sizes as the variation with all of the different colors as the parent, right? To be honest, I actually, now that I'm saying it, I would probably, since we're in a drop down here, I would probably look at potentially just breaking out based on size. And then on top of that, the thing that would be nice with that is that if you change all of these images for each one of them to be much closer to the actual one, so if this was actually showing black in some way, because this is a very, very small, image, right? People can't actually tell what the color is by this. Your conversion rate is going to skyrocket. So you have a good click through immediately. I love the main image. I wouldn't mess with it. It looks nice. I would just immediately just change all of your images to match the actual color of this. Now, if you want to break everything out into individual parentages, you can, but it's not going to be number one thing for you. Number one is just make sure your images match the color, and that'll just increase that conversion rate. You'll keep your click-through rate as is, especially because you're going to have, if you have something like this, everything comes down to one product is going to be shown. It's going to look great. So I like this. I like this listing. Oh, this is kind of cool. I do see this is thing. You have all of the, you have it shown. You have it shown what each one looks like, right?
Georgia is representing here.
Yeah. Look at this. Atlanta established in Atlanta, Georgia, right? You have the colors. Just change out the images, right? Because not everyone at the end of the day is going to scroll down. I'm actually looking now. So he has colors down here. So you're confusing me, Armand, because you have the color, you have the actual image. Why is that not on all of your different
I wonder
variations?
if it's not on every size variation.
It looks that way. Okay, so Armand, that's your problem. I'm guessing you're trying to have us troubleshoot your listing here. I don't even remember what size that was. This one.
The one he originally mentioned
It was one of these
was
sizes.
the 15 by 20 and a half. But I don't
15.
remember if that, but that, I don't think that was the size we saw in the picture.
No, it wasn't. Here, I'll pull it up again.
So, and that's weird because now you changed it to 15 by 20 and a half, but it still says 20 by 20,
1975 by 29.5. Okay.
which wasn't what he'd referenced in the thing. So, something is off in how it's
Something's off
displaying
with your
that.
parentage. This will happen when you have this much. So this is part of why I think it would be a good idea for you to break out your parentages. Because you're going to, your listing is just all over the place. I'm guessing there's specific sizing that people want. It's cool to have a size of any kind. I typically speaking, there's only going to be like a couple of these sizes they're actually selling. You're trying to go for a volume game, go for more of a conversion game, focus on the ones that actually sell, decrease your parentage size so that you can, make sure that you are doing updates like this where the images match because clearly you have the images when we're looking at, all of this. So you have the images down here. Why aren't you using them?
Yeah, something's off. And I would imagine there's probably some sizes
Yeah.
that have never been purchased.
Exactly. And that's the big thing here that I would look at. I would also, I'm curious on the reviews thing. I'm curious how new of a product this is. You have really low reviews for how many sales you're getting. Realistically, this is on a, you're getting what, 10% of your monthly sales is what your reviews is. That's pretty low, in my opinion. So I'd be curious how long you've been selling for. But yeah, those are the major things in my mind.
Cool.
That's interesting.
Let's get to some Q&A. Let me get my glasses on so I can read better.
See, he also can't read. Make sure your text is
Yes.
legible and large, people. People can't
Yes.
read.
Yes, there's a lot of people that are over 40 and your close-up vision is the first thing to go. Jay Cecina says, any best practices for bullet point formatting and content?
Don't use emojis because Amazon banned emojis. I see people still using them. My favorite thing to ask people anytime they use an emoji is when is the last time you've put an emoji into a search bar? You haven't because you don't
Hmm.
do that, right? You can't search emojis. Stop putting emojis in your bullet points. That's number one thing. Bolding doesn't really do much. If you want to HTML optimize your bullet points, it's something that isn't as useful in the algorithm in this day and age, but makes it look nicer. So that is one thing if you can and want to, you can still HTML optimize. You have to only do that from a flat file format. I would do that if you can, just makes it look nice. Focus on just having it be very keyword heavy. Do not have it be keyword stuffed, though. Have it keyword heavy towards things you are trying to index for. Remember, nobody at the end of the day is realistically reading most of it. Text is for robots, pictures are for people. That's the big thing. Those are probably like my top three that I typically see with issues within bullet points, especially people who are making bullet points for like a very descriptive like reasoning. Very quick, less than 5 words. If you want somebody to read a bullet point, make sure that whatever you want them to read is like the first 5 words of the bullet point.
Got it. Awesome. All right. So, because yeah, it's that concise,
Nobody's going to
benefit
read past
driven.
5 words.
Yep. Yeah, exactly. People try to make it like really long and then like a really long bullet point with a really long summary at the
Which is
beginning.
fine. I mean, for indexing and ranking, but just don't expect anyone to actually read it. That's
Right.
the big thing.
Vanity Vent says, do you have to use Helium 10 to use the SOPs? No, no. In fact, we will be probably transitioning to other tools added in there, weaved in there as time goes on. They're definitely not. I would say probably 96%, which is not scientific at all. But the majority of them do not even reference Helium 10. They're more showing you inside Seller Central and other things you could do. There's a handful that are specifically talking about Helium 10, but you don't have to. Oh, Vanity says, how do you find your click-through rate and conversions? Where would be the best places?
Ooh,
There's
fun one.
multiple places you could look.
Yeah, my favorite brand analytics, search query performance. You can head on over to brands. So it's left side menu, go brands, go brand analytics. My favorite is our search analytics, search query
Mm,
performance. And so you can actually do it from a keyword level. So you can do something, let's say monthly, 2025, June, apply, and you can see your actual search funnels, your clicks. So you can see your click through rate and just go directly into this. Oh, that's not what I want. You can also, I should say as well, a secondary aspect with this is under business reports, you now are able to get a ASIN level traffic report. And coming up here soon, I might be able to show a little sneak peek at a new beta program that Amazon has. So this is the new custom analytics. This is another area in which you can actually get some cool insights and some cool data. So you can actually create dashboards with specific tiles so you could see something such as if we want to add the metrics for click-through rate. So you can actually see your search funnel, click count, click price, so on and so forth. So some of this stuff will be nice in future, but for right now, search query performance is going to be the best place to go.
good deal. Roya asks a good question. I don't have box packaging. It comes in frosted Ziploc bag like most leashes. Do I put a fake package? Will people
Yeah.
expect a box?
Blank box, white box with text on it, brown box with text on it, you'll be fine. The amount of people that will complain is so far and few in between. Amazon themselves does it on the Colgate packaging.
Yeah, you don't get what looks like a moving box when you purchase this because I've purchased this myself just to check.
It's a giant box.
Yeah, it's a giant box. It looks like one they created in Canva, just using an existing box, and they like poorly photoshopped that, but they wanted you to know it was a pack of six. This gets 30,000 sales a month. And who is selling it? It is sold by Amazon.com. So this is a first party. Amazon is in control of this listing. And the product itself is just six boxes that are shrink wrapped together, kind of like what you see in this picture here. And that was my experience when I bought it as well. So Amazon themselves is doing it, is the point. So you can get away with it.
Armand said that he had come to us and we weren't able to troubleshoot that problem with his listing images. I'll say this, I bet I can. I bet no
Mm.
one tags me on the shoulder. So shoot a message over to Noah at myamazonguy.com and I'll dig in there for you, Armand, as a little pro bono for you.
Wow, look at that. Look at that. Going above and beyond. We're all about providing value here, folks. All right. Angie says, what is more important, showing off specs or lifestyle pictures in the main listing pictures? I guess you're talking about this stack, not necessarily just the main
First
image.
image. You want to have be your main image with a main image hack. You want it to be your product. You want it to be potentially product packaging. You want to show off your top relevancy keywords within your main image. Second image, you want it to be specs. You want it to be something about the product. You want it to be a high relevancy. What do people need to know? Third image, infographic style image of some kind. Fourth image, you want it to be a lifestyle photo of some kind. Now, is that going to be the case for every single product, every single category? No, definitely not. The biggest thing to understand is knowing your category and knowing your audience really, really well. As we saw earlier with I believe it was David, maybe with his books, his end books. It's a very aesthetic category, right? There is obviously lifestyle is the biggest thing in that category. It's what all of the competitors are doing. Now, is that the best thing to do for every single image? No. Could David probably add a couple more details in there? make it a little bit more known, his products, and, make it understandable what they are? Absolutely. That would be like a secondary image situation there, Angie, what you're wanting to do with it, where you would essentially show off every single one of the aspects of the product. You're essentially showing the entire bundle. That's kind of what it sounds like. You have a bundle of some kind, so you're showing everything that comes in the bundle. Then you do an infographic talking about it, and then you do lifestyle with it.
Awesome. We had a couple other people asking the same question that we just answered. I think it was before we answered the question, but it was about, can I fake packaging? And then another person, Janelle, says you can't have text on the main image. However, it's okay, quote, she put in quotes, on the product. It's okay, yes?
Correct. Yeah, you can't technically add text onto your main image. You're not allowed. That's against Amazon's images. I don't want to say term service because many people forget that image guidelines are not terms of service. You cannot be suspended for breaking an image guideline. I want to make that very clear. For a main image hack, yeah, add the text onto the product, onto product packaging, onto a printout of some kind, but you cannot have it just free floating in the air unless you're Amazon, in which case they'll just do whatever they want.
Right, exactly. And their main image hack with that pack of six is terrible. But you know what? No one was complaining either. That product had tens of thousands of reviews, and
Toothpaste, who cares?
it was toothpaste, exactly. And it was like five. But does it fit does it help people make an informed decision? And I was thinking about, like, I bought this tumbler at Bucky's, which is a gas station in the South. Uh, Gas station is an
I've been to
understatement.
a Bucky's, don't worry.
It's a very unique experience if you've never been. But anyway, a lot of times tumblers like this, if you buy them in a store, they have like a little wrap around it that kind of might say like Yeti or whatever. It's like got product information. Oftentimes the UPC barcode. If it looks like something like that, then you're usually okay to get away with it.
Yep, easiest way.
And so hopefully, folks, this was helpful. One person did ask about like getting in touch with Noah for a coaching call. You can go to myamazonguy.com/coach.
One last thing. If we didn't call on your ASIN today and you still want to learn a little something about your ASIN, head on over to our site. While you're, after you check out with the enrollment, go do yourself. We have a little button at the top that says free audit. Click that, give us your ASIN, and one of my team members will send you a video audit on your ASIN.
Thanks, everybody. Take care.
See you, buddy.
All right. So we're going to be talking about Amazon strategy at this masterclass today. It can be hard sometimes knowing what to do on Amazon. And so you got to have the right, not just what is the latest hack, but you got to be looking at the big picture and then diagnosing what to do from there. And so with that, we're going to be talking about what we do. So ask yourself this question. So what would it do for you if you had the same frameworks that we use here at My Amazon Guy for coming up with strategy for our clients? If you could put that into your own business. And the good news is we're going to show you today. So you don't have to just guess. You don't have to like kind of read between the lines in our YouTube videos. We're going to show you exactly, spill the tea, so to speak, and show you what happens here. So today you're going to learn to figure out, where are you now? What goals should you focus on? And some mistakes to avoid. And when you're trying to figure out your own strategy. So we'll go through all of that here today. And then, of course, our host is Noah Wickham, our VP of Sales and Marketing. So, all right, well, let's go ahead and get into it and learn some strategic stuff from you, Noah.
Fantastic. All right. So I'm going to ask the question to everyone of, when is the last time you have done a full end-to-end account audit of your Amazon account? The reason I ask that question is because when we're looking at strategy in general, strategy is one of those things that requires you to understand your account in depth. Otherwise, if you don't understand where your account is, what your goals are, what you are doing end to end on the account currently, and how everything is interacting on the account, you're not actually being strategic with any of your positions, anything that you do. Rather, you are essentially just throwing, I guess the best way to put it would be, you're throwing uses, or you're throwing strategies, I guess, at a blank wall and canvas. You don't have anything to pin that on. You can't actually say a strategy is useful unless you know everything that is going on in the account. And looking through, it looks like Theo's saying never. Andrew says I haven't. We're seeing never, haven't, never, just starting. Paul says he has. Good job, Paul. Asif says 3 weeks ago. Craig says, when you say full audit, what exactly do you mean? If looking at
Mm.
ASINs and advertising campaigns, probably a month ago. Ooh, okay. So Craig is asking the correct question. So I'm going to show this. Let me pull this up for everyone real quick. So when I say an audit, this is what I mean. So we actually have a little template. And if anybody wants to get this template, what I'll say is we'll send it out to 1 or 2 people here. Let's say Craig, since Craig is the one who brought it up and asked, but we have this little template. This works for us. It's not going to work for everyone. I advise that everyone creates their own version of this template. But essentially, the idea behind an account audit checklist is to go through and audit as much as humanly possible within an account. We have the idea of what the status is, everything from brand registry, listing optimizations, SEO, design, social media, logistics, so on and so forth, right?
Mhm.
The idea of doing this and having a checklist like this is so that when you are making strategic insights and trying to figure out the strategy on an account, you have an actual idea of what the account is doing, what we are actually looking for. So, Craig asked the question, when we mean a full account audit, I mean exactly that. Everything end to end. Everything on your account health, your SEO, your designs, all your listings. You need to have an understanding of what exactly is happening on an account. And this is one of the key aspects where I see a lot of people currently, when they're going into strategy, they don't actually know what they're doing on an account. You can ask the question all day long, what should I do in X, Y, and Z scenario? 9 times out of 10, whenever people are asking that question, I'm just going to ask a question back to them. Why? Well, because it matters, right? Great example, and we're just going to pull this up. Amazon in recent times has given us a lot of new information, so to speak. So, one of the crucial aspects and is what we call the search query performance report. So, many of you probably have used this search query performance report before. This is a great area for us to essentially get a full understanding of our ICAP funnel. First person who says what ICAP stands for in the chat, we will give away I don't know, what kind of course you want to give away, Kevin? SEO, maybe?
Yeah, we do their SEO course, or you had offered someone the audit checklist, which maybe we could do another audit checklist at some point
Yeah,
too.
let's do an audit checklist or an SEO course. Let's see. Yoav got first impression clicks, add to cart purchases. Great. Okay. Yoav, if you send a message to podcast, singular, at myamazonguy.com, we'll get you a course, a mag school course for free. So there we go. The idea here with impressions, clicks, add to carts, and purchases, your ICAP funnel. This, in my opinion, since Amazon rolled it out, this is one of the largest aspects when we are looking at strategic insights since Amazon rolled out. Why? Because this is going to be essentially our guiding force, understanding how we are actually performing within the overall market from an SEO standpoint, right? So we have essentially our top search query. We have door stoppers, for instance, right? Understanding where the volume is, understanding what our overall brand share is from an impression standpoint, how much that matters towards our clicks, our cart ads, and then from there as well, finally, our purchases, right? So every single one of these aspects is where we are going to kind of pivot for any strategic insight. The reason I say that is because this is your funnel. Anything that you are doing from a strategy standpoint on an account is going to have an impact on one of these four areas. So, anytime you are trying to understand how overall you are going to make any form of strategy decision on an account, this should be where you are pivoting to understand which of these four areas are you trying to impact. At the end of the day, are you trying to increase your sales? Okay, that is your purchases, right? Anything you are doing towards increasing your purchases is going to have an effect on your cart ads and your clicks at the same time. So, looking at that, let's say our goal at the end of the day is to actually have an understanding end to end, so to speak, when we are looking at our impressions all the way to our purchases. And we want to make an impact from one aspect to the end of that aspect on a singular listing. Cool. So, what do we do first? We're looking at impressions. So, I'll just throw out Kevin. What are a couple of ways to increase impressions in your mind?
Either get seen in organic search more or have more PPC impressions.
Bingo. So essentially, when we are looking at increasing our impressions, that's our first aspect. We need to get more. So we are, if you see here within door stoppers, let's say we want to increase our overall impression share in door stoppers. We currently have about 0.62%, which honestly, from a brand share perspective, isn't bad, especially when
Hmm.
we're looking at the total count for door stoppers, right? And our brand count for it. So two different scenarios in which we do that, right? And Craig says run ads in there. Our Pavia says optimize listing. Both are correct. So what we would end up doing here is, and we can actually head on over, I have Golly up here, but I'll just pull up Ducky real quick. So we'll pull this one up. We would want to increase from two areas specifically. One, our overall SEO indexing. So your SEO indexing comes from a few primary areas: your title, your bullet points, your copy on your actual product detail page, and then finally, our actual backend search terms as well. That's the primary first places when we are looking at our indexing and our ranking. So if our goal at the end of the day is to try and increase doorstopper impressions, we need to make sure that we are ranking and indexing organically really well for that keyword. The secondary aspect of that is, as Craig said, running ads. So running ads is going to be our primary bread and butter when we are trying to increase overall impression share, because it allows us to actually pivot even if we aren't, and you can see here, we are number 12 in doorstops. If we want to take that first place when we look up our search term, so we'll take our search term here, we want to be number one on door stoppers, we technically can. You can see here that we actually have a couple right here and our product right here. We have it in the actual top of search sponsored position. It's not sponsored number one, but it is in this top of search sponsored. And this is how we can actually start increasing the impressions, as anyone that looks up door stoppers is going to immediately see the product. Now, impressions don't really do much for you at the end of the day. You can have all the impressions in the world, and it doesn't really do much. So then you're probably thinking to yourself, okay, clicks. So what do we do for clicks? How do we increase clicks at the end of the day? It's the number one thing. Kevin, I'll let you take it. What's the number one thing to increase clicks?
What people see. So that would be your main image.
Your main image. And we have our tried and true main image CTR, which for those that don't know, the main image CTR has actually changed over the last couple of years. The main image CTR has actually changed over the last couple of years. You can actually see this main image doesn't follow the new, what I would consider best in practice. And there's a specific reason behind that. One of the big things that we've seen in recent times with the main image is that you'll see this little sticker here, which has been a tried and true main image CTR, so click through rate hack, for a very long time. The biggest thing when we are looking at this, unfortunately, is that you probably can't do this anymore. Amazon earlier this year released their AI Bulldog, which goes through, views images, and essentially then goes through and says, hey, you can't actually do this and you can't have this. It breaks our image guidelines. And so you can't do things like this anymore. But you can do other things. You can see here with this CTR, we have product packaging in the back. We have our primary thing. So wall protector, right, is one of the primary keywords that we are trying to go after. And so we have that big bold right there because when someone's scrolling on Amazon, we want to have something that stops them. It actually has the keyword they want and are designed and patented in the USA. It's a big one. I would be very careful for anyone who is wondering right now. The FTC did just call out Amazon for some of these type of things on products and not actually having a verification there, but mainly for the made in the USA. This
Hmm.
one might get away since it's designed and patented in the USA.
Well, I
We
guess
make
if they have a patent on the USPTO.
It's true. This is true. And so, main image is how you increase your clicks, right? Okay, let's say that we are trying to increase our cart ads. So, increasing cart ads, I think, is one of the primary areas from a strategy perspective people don't understand. And that is because cart ads, people are already on the page. They've clicked onto your product. What's the number one thing that actually will make someone add it to their cart?
That is a good question. I would say you could go a million different directions with that, but does it solve the need that they have? Does it solve a problem?
It's kind of the primary one. Is it relevant? That's kind of the thing that I always say, right?
Okay.
is you can have all of the impressions in the world, you can have an amazing main image and click. Is your product relevant to what people are looking for? We have a lot of different people in the chat here. We have price, we have content, we have price again, price, title, reviews and ratings, price, review, bullet points, images. I will say half right to most of the people because the one thing I'll say about price is the number one converting factor at the end of the
Mm.
day. And that's when we get down into purchases and rather than our actual add to carts. Adding to cart comes down to relevancy and whether or not what you are targeting is relevant. So when somebody is searching for door stoppers, we've optimized our SEO. We've optimized our SEO and our ads to go against door stoppers. We
Hmm.
end up optimizing our main image for, wall protectors. Someone ends up clicking on our product. Does our product have relevancy towards those, though? Does our product meet that criteria that somebody is wanting for them to actually add it to their cart? And then finally, we get down to purchases, right? And our purchases is what we would look at from a price standpoint. So, price is number one converting factor. Secondarily, that yes, review and review rating is more important, in my opinion, than actually review count. Review count does play a factor, but review rating matters much more, in my opinion, than actual review count. And those are the factors at the end of the day when we're looking at ICAP. But all of that said, how do we actually know what kind of strategy to employ to increase those? We can increase our impressions, right, through ads, through SEO. We can increase our clicks through design work. We can increase our cart ads by having extra design that shows the product, shows that it is high relevancy and it fits the need of the consumer. We can even get more purchases by lowering our price, right, compared to our competitors. All of those things play a very crucial role in the aspect of ICAP, but they don't play a role in overall actual strategy and deciding strategy. And that's the big factor I want to push to everyone today. It's the aspect that actually deciding strategy comes in many different forms. There are many different things you can do on Amazon. The reason I mentioned at the beginning of this to do an end to end audit is because until you actually understand which part of your account and your listing you're trying to optimize for, you don't know actually which of these to employ. All of what we talked about is what I would consider the base level strategy. That is where anybody who is just now starting on Amazon should start from an optimization standpoint. But optimizing or being optimized on your listing doesn't necessarily equate to direct strategy. On Amazon, there's a lot of different things that can be considered a strategy, right? So if we are focused on a sales generation standpoint, I would consider it strategic to run something along the lines of a brand tailored promotion. So, brand tailored promotions, for those that are uninitiated, are essentially a promotion where we get a couple of different options, a goal. And as I mentioned towards the beginning, understanding your account and what is happening on your account is very important. And setting a goal with that is very important. You can't actually be strategic if you don't have a goal in mind. So, that's why I love brand tailored promotions because it forces you to have a goal. What is your goal? Are you trying to have new customer acquisition? Are you trying to retain current customers? Are you trying to re engage people that you've lost? Or are you just trying to promote and cross sell different things? The most common one, in my opinion, is going to be new customer acquisition. We're just going to do all products for this. There's going to be different audience targeting and segmentation. So, audience targeting and segmentation within real quick, I actually see, is this available only for brand registered accounts? Our Pavia says yes, brand tailored promotions is only for brand registered accounts. But you can see here, we have audience targeting. We have brand cart abandoners, 90 days. We have high potential new customers. Then we have high intent customers. Each one of these has a specific audience. And this is one of those big things that I see a lot of newer sellers fail to understand and capture, especially when their audience sizes are fairly low, is not understanding what it actually means to have an audience. The good part about this is that Amazon is finally being nice to us and giving us that information. So, if you head on over to brand analytics, customer journey analytics, you'll actually start to understand your customer journey. Your customer journey, Amazon has in recent times allowed us to actually see what customers are like, what audience groups are like, and allows us to look at things such as awareness, consideration, intent, and again, purchases, right? How are people actually purchasing our product? where is the drop off actually happening? You can see, for instance, for this specific product, our drop off is primarily happening here at the added to cart phase. So again, what we go back to is even the basics of the ICAP. I said at the beginning, ICAP is the easiest way to develop and understand strategy. This is what I mean. This is the secondary layer to ICAP. We can now see with purchase intent where people drop off. Majority of our people are dropping off after they do a category search, then they drop off when they view detail page. Right here you can see the 4,700. And then finally, add to cart, we have a very large amount of drop off, right? And so this immediately tells us potentially if we're trying to increase our sales and our conversions, right, we want to look at doing something along the lines that is going to actually increase that. And what everyone say, price is the number one converting factor, right? So that means we can actually do something interesting where we come back to something like brand tailored promotions. We come back here, we do new customer acquisition, we look at our products, and then brand cart abandoners. So that is the understanding and the knowledge behind what the purpose of a brand cart abandoner audience and campaign is. That's how you actually develop strategy, is more so what I want to show here is that you don't just choose different strategic things, quote unquote, to do. You don't just throw a coupon out willy nilly hoping to increase. You can, and that is technically a strategy, so to speak, but it's not truly a strategy in the way that we would think about it when you're actually being able to make data-driven decisions. And that's why I want to kind of encourage everyone here to understand when we are trying to be strategic, is that anytime you're doing something on an account, you should have data backing up that decision. You shouldn't just be throwing a coupon out hoping to increase sales. You shouldn't just be increasing your bid and your budget being like, I'm just not getting the impressions that I want. I better, increase my bid. That does nothing if we don't have a placement strategy behind it, right? And we don't have the right relevancy, we don't have the right targeting to actually identify that. So we have to go back to search query. Is this a keyword that has high relevancy? Is this a keyword that we have good search query performance on? Brand cart abandoners. Where are we seeing from a brand analytics and customer journey that we're seeing the largest drop off? Well, we're seeing the largest drop off from brand cart abandoners. Where's the other aspect that we are starting to see a large drop off? High intent customers. We saw that high intent customers was about a 6,000 person drop off, right? And so these are the aspects that we need to be looking at when we're trying to make strategic decisions at the end of the day. Is a data driven one for understanding, and this is again where I think most people get it wrong and get strategy wrong, is they're making choices that they think are strategies without actually seeing and understanding the reason they're making that choice in the first place. Whether or not it increases your sales, whether or not something happens, it's great. Knowing and understanding the underlier is the big aspect there. So, gonna stop there real quick. Allow people to ask questions if they need to in the chat. But Kevin, what are your initial thoughts here? Anything you want to add to all this?
Yes, there is no one size fits all. A lot of times we think like, oh, well, I heard this person say you should go do this, and it's a sacred cow. Well, maybe they're talking about one specific supplement brand that they did this for 2 years ago and it fixed the problem. Maybe something's different. So there's always more to the strategy that you need to employ than just, well, but so and so seems really smart on LinkedIn and they said do this, or I watched this YouTube video and they said do that. And so which one do I do? It's like, well, it depends. You have to look at your business of where you're at and what's the problem you're trying to solve? Just like your customers are trying to solve a problem, you're trying to solve a problem. Do I need impressions? Do I need conversions? Do I need clicks? What is it that I need? And then you go from there.
The big thing here, if we look at, for instance, this is a bracelet brand, right? So they're
Mm,
selling I guess technically a cuff bracelet, so a bangle, so to speak. Not really knowledgeable in this area, but either way, we can look at someone like this, right? And they're selling this, a lot of different colors, cuffs, sizes, all of that. This product is a different category. It's a different volume. They're doing about $15,000 in the last 30 days, right? If we compare them to a brand like Golly, who has
mhm.
done 1.775 million, right? Golly and them are going to have vastly different strategies, but the core of what they do from a strategic standpoint is going to be the same. Golly and them are both probably going to run some kind of brand tailored promotions. Golly and them are both going to likely have some form of strategy around new audience segmentation. They're going to likely be looking still at the same type of information when they are looking at their brand analytics and their customer journey analytics. The big differentiator is they're different categories, they're different products, they have different market sizes and caps. You look at someone like Golly, they do subscribe and save, right? So you can see down here they do subscribe and save. That's a thing you can do for supplements.
Hmm.
You can't do subscribe and save on that. I mean, I guess you could. No
Yeah.
one's going to.
Right.
No one is. Well, actually, I guess you can't because it's probably not active for this category. But that's the thing, right? Is that no one, you can't do subscribe and save. So that's a strategic decision at the end of the day that depending on your category, you have to do. You can see they even have limited time deal. They're doing a limited time deal. So this is a deal for their not even a strike through deal. It's just a deal. Whereas someone like Golly is very consistent with their pricing and only ever does discounts for things like subscribe and save because that
Mm.
works better in a supplement category than it does in other categories. So, I fully agree. People are going to be at different phases within their journey. The primary things is that someone like Golly is going to be focused a lot more on overall brand growth and market share growth versus, a different competitor like, that Bangle, right? The Bangle
Hmm.
is going to be focused probably much more on overall sales growth and much more on trying to increase their overall brand presence and market share within their ICAP. Whereas Golly, being a number one competitor within the market, is going to focus much more on trying to just squeeze as much out of their conversion ratio and lifetime value of their customers as possible. Difference between those two customer groups doesn't make sense. Can you explain that again? They are both add to cart that didn't order right. The difference between brand cart abandoners and high intent customers. So let's read this together and then I can kind of go into the in depth of what the actual
Hmm.
true difference is. So, brand cart abandoners, customers who have added any of your brand products to their cart in the last 90 days but haven't purchased yet. Okay. Haven't purchased yet. Key thing here. High intent, customers who have added any of your products to their cart, save for later, or wish list in the last 60 days, but did not purchase in the last 1 year. So, the very key difference here between these two is did not purchase in the last 1 year, haven't purchased yet. So, brand cart abandoners are new customer acquisition, right? So these are
Mm.
customers that have never purchased from you. They have the product in their cart still, so they haven't removed it from their cart. It is still actively in their cart. So if you have ever gone on Amazon at some point in time or on your phone, you have some items in your cart, and you go to your orders, and you notice a little box at the top and it says X product in your cart has changed price, right?
Hmm.
That is why that happens because somebody added a discount of some kind for specifically brand card banners, or they just changed the product price in general. That also can happen. But this is usually a large case. Now, high intent customers are people who have potentially purchased your product in the past, but not within the last year, and they have either added your product to their cart, save for later, or wish list in the last 60 days. They do not currently have the product in those. So they don't have the product in the cart, but they have added it at some point, either for save for later or a wish list in the last 60 days. That is the key differentiator between these. And a big thing I want to push for anyone curious with brand tailored promotions, you'll see this audience size 18,541, 36,422. These two numbers are exclusive from each other. They are completely different numbers. So, I mean, I don't know. I can pull up a calculator here, I guess. And so it is plus 18,541. So it's a total of 54,963 for the total audience size. It is not 18,541 or 36,422. Both these together are 54,000 essentially.
Mm.
And you can actually see if you also go back into your brand analytics and we're at our customer journey again. If we are looking at this, you can actually see this as well, and we can do a breakdown here where it shows the different drop offs. So you can see again, we have this visited detail page they add to their wish list, they saved it for later, or they added it to their cart. So that is where all of these add up into this drop off again. So that's the big aspect I want to essentially notify of people is that that's where this high intent comes from. Whereas with brand cart abandoners, you essentially have add to cart completely dropped off. So a very different amount comparatively. So
And I think people might be also curious too, like how does a customer know that they have this available to them?
customer, so it shows up again within their cart. So it'll actually
Mm,
change the pricing in their cart and it'll show a discount. Amazon, for instance, if you have I'll just say Echo and not the name of the device because I know people get annoyed if theirs randomly goes off. And
mm.
mine is right over there, so I don't want to also make it go off. So if you have an Echo device and you get a notification, sometimes that notification you'll hear and it will say something. You'll say, hey, play, so and so play notification, and it will say something along the lines of, oh, an item in your cart now has a 10% discount applied to it. That is because somebody has ran a promotion. And so you can get a lot of those. Amazon will do push notifications on the app to customers as well. So brand tailored promotions is like one of those super simple strategies to employ. That does not matter the size of the account. You're probably always going to be utilizing them in some capacity.
Someone did ask, how are you using Amazon Marketing Cloud to further increase sales for your brand?
Ooh, I like that one. So I think that's a hard question to say from like a general standpoint. So Amazon Marketing Cloud, for those that initiated, essentially gives you access to a lot of different features outside of just advertising and pay-per-click. It gives you access to things such as Amazon Live. It gives you access, well, if you have access to Amazon Live, I should say, gives you access to things like beta programs, Amazon Influencer Program as well. So all of those are features within Amazon Marketing Cloud. I would say 9 times out of 10, though, the biggest things that people are going to focus on, the average brand and seller, just comes down to utilizing things such as DSP if you're a very large brand, right? So we have DSP services in-house currently that we are doing for our clients. It's a thing that we rolled out last year. It's been exceptionally impactful for clients, especially ones that are larger. If you're doing anywhere over roughly $30,000 a month in spend, I'm usually going to recommend that you get DSP as a secondary because you can grow both on and off Amazon on a brand perspective and from a conversion perspective. Secondarily to that, doing things such as Amazon Live, I haven't done a ton with Amazon Live. I'm up in the air on it, but things like the influencer program, as I think it was the last webinar we had here, Kevin, where we had some influencers in the chat, and that's one of the
Mm.
things. Amazon influencer program is a great one to utilize, right? Having influencers share your products on different marketplaces, that's always great. Doing things such as the career connection program, that's also a great option as well. So there's a lot of cool things within Amazon Marketing Cloud to utilize. It just depends on where the brand is at, what the brand is doing. So I think that's the big aspect to push say is strategy is not dependent or is independent of, who is pushing the strategy. It's more dependent on the actual brand itself and
Mm.
the goals of that brand comparatively to just saying, this is the strategy you need to employ right now, right? There are those, right? We all know those basic strategies that every single account needs to have, but not everyone knows how to necessarily employ them or when to employ them, I think is the big thing.
Rob in the chat asks, oh, when will the customer journey analytics be rolled out in the UK and EU accounts? I'm assuming whenever Amazon gets around to it.
Yeah, whenever they get around to it. So you can have it technically in some accounts. And I think, let me double check. We might actually have it on this account because I know that you have to apply, I believe, in the UK. The problem, Rob, just for reference, it's not even so much a problem, so to speak, with Amazon when it comes to things like customer journey analytics. It's actually an EU UK legal problem when it comes to marketing and attribution and customer data. So the EU and
Privacy.
UK have very, very strict rules and regulations around collecting customer data, collecting customer cookies, things like that. And so it's not so much in my mind that it's like Amazon's holding it out from the UK. I think it's more so that they just can't do it the same way that they can in the US because it's not possible, right? Because I should say it's possible. It's not legal in the way that they do it in the US for the EU and UK. So are they going to roll it out? I don't know. Maybe. They do have obviously like brand analytics. They just don't have it as detailed down they do in the US.
Because there's probably like some sort of like tracking or whatever, but it's like it's not like they say, Noah Wickham from Michigan put this into his cart. Here's where he lives. Like they don't tell you, like you have no idea who these people are.
It's not even that issue. So it's like not even the issue of Amazon sharing that information with the brand. It's the issue of Amazon themselves is not allowed to own that information,
Hmm,
right? So
that's
it's like
true.
not even a matter of them sharing it. It's like they aren't allowed to have that info. So it's, because
I'm
it's
sure they
illegal.
probably still do it in a database
Oh,
somewhere.
of
Just,
course. Of
put
course
a couple
we
pivot
all know
tables
Amazon
together.
is, but
They just have to hide
so
it from themselves.
so if you really want it, Rob, go, I don't know, petition Parliament or something.
There you go. There you go. All right. Anonymous attendee asks if a brand sales dropped below, this is in the Q&A, dropped below 80% or dropped 80%, where would you start? So what things would you look for to revive sales again? So that's a big drop. So I'm curious what time period it dropped to
Yeah, I mean
80%.
that if we're talking like that's probably the granular aspect you need to know. And this actually is a great question, rolling back into the idea of strategy, right? Dropping 80% in, let's say, daily sales one day to the next, there's a big difference in what strategy you're going to employ there comparatively to, hey, we've dropped 80 sales over the course or 80% in sales over the course of 12 months, right? Those are two very different scenarios. But what I typically am going to tell people, and without the further information to you, would be start at the ICAP, right? So
Hmm.
figure out in your ICAP, understand where you started, the drop started, right? So you need to know when the drop started actually happening. That you can actually look at from your ICAP, go from a quarterly aspect first, down to a granular monthly, and then down to a weekly. Understand if there is a specific time frame in which all of this started. That's where you can then kind of backtrack, see if there are changes that went and took place. Did you change your ad strategy? Did you, is your listing suppressed for some reason? Did you go out of stock, right? All of those are going to help. And, earlier we were talking about impressions and how impressions aren't really all that great for you. They are in some aspects. And this is one of those where if you see an immediate just like drop off in impressions, there are several easy ways to deduce what could cause that suppression, ad stopping placements, not bidding high enough, things like that. So that's where I would probably start with that.
Gotcha. All right. So then V asks, how does Mag take care of each account efficiently when each brand team is stretched out over several clients? How often are brands looked at?
Yeah, so I think that's what I'll probably say first and foremost is quack. Quack, quack, quack. It's our big thing. So quack is it's quality, audits and checklists, right? So that's the very first or Q&A audits and checklists, I should say. So that's the very first thing that I'm gonna say, and that's because having a checklist like the audit checklist I showed earlier is exceptionally important, right? Understanding and going through a checklist and verifying that everything is exactly as it should be at a very set interval in time is important. Advertising, for instance, usually within our teams of our brand manager teams, right? Each of them usually have about 2 to 3 ad specs, right? 2 to 3
Hmm.
advertisers across all of those different accounts, plus the brand manager, plus the brand director, right? So it's multiple people who are versed in advertising, directing strategy, and understand what should be happening. And then on top of that, we have a checklist that they go through every 2 days. They check that account and then they make all of the optimizations they need to make based off of those checklists, right? So it's a matter of having multiple people with just checklists, tasks that they have to perform, and then looking at the overall overarching strategy of the account, right? So when you're thinking of it, it's not like one person who's managing, 10 different accounts. It's a team of people, right? And then internally, look, somebody gets a little, overwhelmed, their accounts are taking too much time. Fantastic. We have, 40 other people who can pick up the slack and help out with strategy if you are stuck in some capacity. That's what makes us great. We're kind of a giant think tank in that kind of capacity.
Very cool. All right. So then Craig LMG asks, the cost per click for a $20 product is $1.50 to $2. Margin on that product isn't enough to justify the cost or that cost if we're assuming 1% click-through rate and 10% conversion rate. What other ad tactics and strategies would you employ to target lower cost per click for keywords and a lower ACOS?
Yeah, so I would probably start first and foremost always with, if I haven't already, doing a gold panning campaign as well as an auto catch-all. So for those that are uninitiated, a gold panning campaign is essentially a form of keyword research and advertising where you're essentially taking a bunch of keywords, putting them into a campaign, or even running an auto campaign to get new search terms. You put everything in exceptionally low bid, and the purpose is to see if you get any clicks and conversions, even at an exceptionally low bid. And the idea behind this is that if you can find that usually your cost per click for a very low conversion is going to be much, much lower at that bid adjustment, it's worth it to do it. And that's how you get your cost per click lower. Now, one thing I would typically also say when someone says the average cost per click is $1.50 to $2 and it doesn't really work for, the costing product, is that I would usually look at what we are trying to achieve. So are we looking at overall the product is a brand new product, or is this a product that has some organic volume? If it doesn't have any organic volume and we're trying to gain that, well, are we willing to take a net loss on ad sales over the course of, let's say, 90 days to boost up the overall ranking of the product to gain organic traction so we can pull back on advertising? We have tons of clients actually internally. This is very common in the supplement realm where they're okay with having 150% ACOS because they don't care as long as their tacos doesn't move past, 10%, which
Mm,
is super common, right? They look at it as essentially a we're growing organically through ad attribution. So a lot of people look at advertising as just dollars in, dollars out, and don't think about the impacts and implications that running ad campaigns can have on organic growth as well.
awesome. Eric asks, how often should listing bullet points be updated?
We typically look at usually about once every 30 days. That's going to be kind of my general guidance. So 30 days is about how long it takes to index for keywords. And so if you're looking to update your bullet points, 30 days is a good time frame. You can go longer, 60 days ish, but usually by that point, you should be well indexed. Obviously, this also comes down to your sales velocity as a big factor. If you're getting only like two sales, a day or anything like that, it's probably going to take a little bit longer to actually rank on keywords specifically than others. So you're going to have to wait a little bit longer in between SEO optimizations.
Cool. All right. Next up, Vanity Event says a little off topic, but on a call 2 weeks ago, you mentioned you put a QR code on the Amazon product page. I don't think it'd be a product page. What verbiage do you recommend to accompany the QR code?
The only scenario you can put QR code on the actual product page, in my knowledge at the very least, is when the QR code is specifically for an app related to the product. So I have a video I made about a year ago about how you can sell apps on Amazon. It
Hmm.
was a little tongue in cheek because you don't actually sell apps. What it is people will sell a product that only works with an app that has a subscription. And in those scenarios, you can. There was also I do know actually there was a client that we worked with recently, and they sold like QR codes, right, for specific things. And so you can have that on there. But I think specifically to kind of answer Vanity's question, you shouldn't have just like a QR code, right? So if you just have a product of some kind, I wouldn't typically do a QR code on the product page unless the product you are selling is the QR code, right? And even then, I'm like kind of iffy on it because that could get you taken down because Amazon's going to look at that as taking people off Amazon, right? They're going to look at similar to if you put like a URL on the actual product page as well. So instead, what I would recommend is a QR code inside the product insert. So once people actually purchase,
Hmm.
they can scan a QR code. So that's usually what I'm going to recommend there.
Yeah, and I think it might have been product insert because I do remember it.
I've done a couple of them recently.
Yeah.
So
Aisling asks, what ad campaigns would you, this is in the chat, would you recommend to improve each of the iCaps? So depending on whether you're trying to increase impressions, clicks, add to carts, purchases, are there different ad campaigns that you would run?
no, not really. That's not how you should probably look at the advertising, right? So advertising is a lot more intent based than looking at ICAP. So especially when we're looking at like keywords specifically. So we're going to look at things like long tail keywords, which for those that are uninitiated, it's a keyword phrase with four or more keywords in it, right? Those are always going to be better from an exact standpoint. Why? Well, because it's very rare that people are searching for long tail keyword phrases and adding on to those phrases as well. right?
Hmm.
It's very, very rare you're going to have like four keywords and then something else after that as well. And so those always work from an exact because that's exactly what you're trying to target. So, no, not really. If you are trying to do something like boost conversions specifically towards a very specific keyword, right? So your actual purchases, then yes, you want to target things like exact, top of search, because that's always going to be highest impressions, that's going to be highest clicks, highest conversions, as long as you have a high relevancy as well. Increasing overall just impressions across the board. Sponsored brand campaigns work exceptionally well for that, but 9 times out of 10, I'm going to really kind of push more so people to go with the broad campaign route. So, broad campaigns are my favorite at the very least, just because, especially for kind of single one off keywords, just because it works a lot better in overall purpose as to, targeting when you're getting more impressions from them. You have more ability and more different phrases that you can actually hit on. And as long as you have a good negations process or negative keyword process, you should be fine with broad campaigns.
Naveen says the rising CPC cost is eating my profits due to the competition. I'm not able to raise that price. What action should I take?
So if your cost per click is raising, again, I think gold campaign, try and find some new keywords. Start there. Long tail is probably actually where I would start within that keyword. Try and see if there are any specific long tail. Secondarily, that the biggest thing that when cost per clicks are rising in general is I think usually that indicates people are probably targeting from an exact top of search most frequently. So if your cost
Hmm.
per click is rising, there's always usually lower cost per click options for the same keywords. There's not going to have the same effect as something, as easy as an exact, right? So this is where broad, I think, comes into play because you can get a lot more search terms as well in that targeting that allows you to potentially create new keyword targets at the same time.
Yeah, and if you can go after the more niche long tail keywords that might be more relevant to your product than a narrower keyword, because to your point, like, people go after like, but it has the highest number of searches a month. And I don't know if that's the case with Naveen here or not. Also, can you improve your main image? If you can get more clicks. I mean, at the end of the day, I know this might be a controversial statement. I think all digital advertising comes down to costs per mil, CPM. At the end of the day, if Amazon is not getting enough revenue to justify giving you 1,000 impressions, they're not going to give you 1,000 impressions. So if you get more clicks, they're getting more revenue, and you get more sales, then it's worth it to them to show you more times out of 1,000 than not. So that can be part of it too. Is are you getting the clicks? So look at the ICAP, just like Noah was showing
Main image
earlier.
hack.
What's that?
Main image hack.
Yeah, and the main image hack. So all these things, you can see how they start to come together. Like it's not just like, oh,
Yeah.
go do this thing on its own. No, these things all influence each other, not independent of one another, but like tied together. All right, Matisse Friedman says about the bullet point. How long do you leave an exact match keyword in the bullet point? Is it only for indexing, or is it also for organic ranking?
There's not like a set time frame to leave it, right? So it depends on, or is it a high relevancy keyword that you're trying to rank on? I would just leave it in there, right? Because it's going to help you as you get more sales velocity with it. So if you're just trying to index on it, just wait until you're indexed on it. But you can just check through something like, Jungle Scout, Helium 10, Data Dive, any of those.
Okay, cool. Anonymous attendee says, do you run the SO or the SEO phase strategy 1 through 4, which we didn't really talk too much about here today, but we have a 4 phase approach. We can go to myamazonguy.com/SEO and learn more about. Do you run the SEO phase 4 phase strategy on all accounts that we work on?
Every single account, every single one.
It's part of the canon of Pope scripture
It
is
is. It
to,
is part of Quack. It is a checklist
yes.
item. Have you ran your SEO?
All right. So then the follow-up question to that, which I assume is the same person because it's anonymous attendee. It could be two different anonymous attendees, but it says, when it comes to Amazon SEO, if your product is already ranking and indexing well for a specific keyword, is it safe to rotate that keyword off the listing to a new one? So seems to be a concept that's coming up quite a bit, to make room
The
for new
answer is
ones.
yes, I think, for what they're asking. Yeah, if you're ranking and indexing correctly and well, yes, you can rotate that keyword off. Some people have a different opinion in the sense that they're like, oh, never take keyword off. And for like your top ranking keywords, yeah, don't take them off your listing. But if it's just a keyword that you're already ranking well for and indexed well for, yeah, take it off, rotate it.
Okay. MW says, please touch on Amazon's increased push towards AI, Rufus, and Cosmo, and how should we think about this in our strategy? This is fundamentally changing how sellers should be building their listings. So would love your insight here.
All right, so I'm not gonna call anyone out, but
I know where you're
I
going with this.
know part of the reason that Rufus and Cosmo are coming up lately is because there's another agency out there that is doing webinars related to Rufus and Cosmo and talking a lot about them, and so people are starting to ask questions, right? And I get
Hmm.
this quite often. I'll say a couple of things on this. Rufus, Amazon themselves has, and also my Amazon guy, we did a analysis and poll of Amazon customers, over 500 individuals. Less than 13% of people actually knew what Rufus was or had ever used it. Of that 13% that had ever used it, only 3% said that they use it consistently. So I want to push that out there first and foremost. A lot of people talk about Rufus like it's this big thing that consumers love. I don't think anyone uses it. I think that in the Amazon ecosystem of sellers and agencies, I think we all use it day to day and talk about it more than any customer or consumer even knows about it. So I want to put that as my kind of primary thing. Now, that being said, Cosmo side of things. Cosmo also has only been pushed out to less than 10% of the entire Amazon market for testing so far. So it's kind of hard to say. You can't really
Can you explain to
actually.
folks the difference between Rufus and Cosmo?
Yeah, so for those that are uninitiated, Rufus is essentially Amazon's AI chatbot on the actual platform. It's built for customers to be able to try and find new products. You can have things such as sponsored display and sponsored brand campaigns show up with inside Rufus's little chat box, and it helps people, or should help people purchase products on the Amazon platform, and it's another way for them to search. Cosmo is the newest edition of AI algorithm targeting that Amazon is slowly rolling out. I say slowly because the most recent update around Cosmo is that, again, about 10% of the entire US market has had some form of test with Cosmo. That test resulted in only a 3% conversion increase across everything they did. So I also want to throw that out there, that it's very far away from being like this revolutionary thing that I think a lot of people are talking about all the time. So, all that being said, to kind of wrap up this tangent that I'm now on, is it fundamentally changing how sellers should be building their listings? No, it's not. Not yet, at the very least. Do I think that things like Rufus, it's good to try and do sponsored display specifically for targeting towards something like Rufus? Yeah, absolutely. As more people start to use it, more consumers start to use it, I absolutely, yes, think that something like Rufus might be useful in the near future. Same thing like Cosmo. Cosmo is going to be similar to the algorithm update that everyone dubs the A10 algorithm that happened back in 2021, I think it was, right? And so that's one of the things, yes, Cosmo will be huge. They're already doing things. Amazon's planning on rolling out in the next couple of months this thing called two-part titles, for instance, where the first part of your title is 150 characters talking about your product. Then you have another 100 characters to do single keywords describing your product. That's a big thing. The reason they're doing that is because that helps AI, and it's much easier for AI to ping off of those single individual keywords for understanding products and what they should show consumers than it is to do a long string of text at any point in time. So there isn't a lot you can do right now from an SEO perspective to increase your odds for Cosmo, for instance, or even Rufus. Rufus doesn't actually care as much about SEO as it does about things like ratings, reviews, ranking,
Hmm.
and whatnot. So those are, I think, big crucial factors to understand. But it's something we're, obviously keeping an eye on. I just think it's so overblown, as my
I
tangent probably showed.
No, I agree with you. I think that it's something definitely to keep an eye out for. It's going to change things, but it's not currently fundamentally changing anything. I don't think, other than there is a new market for talking about Rufus.
Yes.
The market for talking about Rufus exceeds the supply of people using Rufus.
I would agree with that full-heartedly. I honestly would rather sit and talk for like an hour and a half around how like ChatGPT and Perplexity AI citations on websites is like the big thing, because that actually is rolled out and something people can, work SEO around.
Hmm.
But so
Yeah. People aren't buying things based off of AI
No,
yet. That might
yet.
change, but if it's not readily happening on Amazon and you don't see it happening other places too, like it's not a thing. David asks, do you prefer modifiers on broad keywords? Broad match.
Yeah, you definitely can still use modifiers. I don't see, the
Do you
depends, I
prefer
guess.
them? Was more the
Oh, do I
question.
prefer them? No, I just prefer, I guess modifiers in general I prefer. It's not really, I don't care about exact or broad. I think broad it's just a little bit trickier because you're just going to have, if you don't have negation set up, something like a top of search is going to seem super high cost per click, a lot of impressions and like not much from like a click through rate. So you just need to be really good with your negations. But yeah, I still utilize them.
David says, I use Rufus to identify what customer questions I did not address in any of my copy or fields. That is something I
Yeah.
agree is worth doing. But
Again, I
like,
think Rufus is super useful for sellers,
mhm.
honestly. It's been exceptionally useful for sellers and just like a useful seller tool. I just don't think customers in general are using
Right.
it.
Right. It's kind of like I wouldn't closer in like I wouldn't totally get rid of sponsored product ads just to go 100% on sponsored display, but you probably would have a higher percentage mix of sponsored display sales than you would Rufus sales. I'm having a hard time making sales. I've had a new main image done by your agency. Thank you. I have the listing optimized. I have a brand tailored promotion on, auto campaigns, exact phrase and broad on OFC. I'm negating on a daily basis sometimes. I really don't know what to do more.
Ooh, you know what I'm gonna tell you, Omar? You said the trigger word there. You're negating on a daily basis.
Hmm.
You might be over negating. I would never suggest someone does negations daily. I typically say weekly, at like a bare max, I guess. Um, just because I see this all the time. People are you will come and they'll say they're struggling with sales, they can't make any sales. I was actually coaching someone just this week yesterday on PPC, and I immediately started looking at his negations. I was just asking, why are you making these negations? Right? They couldn't explain it. Right? They just thought that they were irrelevant keywords. Meanwhile, it's like keywords that they have a 15% ACOS on, right? And so that's going to be the first thing I'm going
Hmm.
to tell you, Omar. You might be over negating if you are negating stuff on a daily basis. Sounds like you're probably just afraid of wasting any money whatsoever. You need to pull back a little bit on that. You need to let things run and build some history and understanding on those in general. I would also just quickly check your ICAP. I would very quickly check, where is the fall off? Are you falling off on your clicks? Are you falling off on your purchases, right? That's going to tell you a lot. Like if you aren't getting the impressions and the clicks to get the purchases in the first place, then you have to fix something to get your impressions, right? And that just comes down to figuring out where your targeting needs to be.
Gotcha. Yeah, because there's so many things you can do, and you can over negate keywords. And I know there's some people that talk about like, oh, you should be optimizing every day. They might also have a PPC agency that is just trying to prove their worth, and they might have clients who spend, $10,000 a day. Well, then maybe you do want to negate daily, but most products don't need to. All right, so the last question slash comment, it's from two different people, but it'll kind of tie together. Barry's says, I've the same issue of price on a product that's 14.95, margin is $3. Most of the days ads is higher, but I also tested the product at 19.95 margin. It was $5. It was better, but sales were a little slower. So yeah, you do have to kind of sometimes, if you're not making money, you don't want to just donate product to a certain point either. If all your sales are coming from PPC. And then anonymous attendee says, what would you recommend doing to compete with competitors with a lower price than yours?
I think this is the biggest thing that people always struggle with, this idea that yes, price is the number one converting factor, right? But just because price is the number one converting factor doesn't mean that someone is selling, right, a single playing card, right?
Hmm.
Someone else is selling a deck of playing cards, right? This single playing card, someone's selling it for 1 cent, right? And you're selling a deck of playing cards for $1, right? People, just because this is 1 cent and this is $1 and they both are in the same general realm of playing cards doesn't mean that people are going to purchase all the time the person or the competitor that's lower than you. This is what we call differentiation. you're selling 52 playing cards, they're selling one playing card, right? And so you need to figure out how in your main image and your title you can show that differentiation between you and your competitors. Now, if you're selling a product and it's near identical to somebody else and it really just comes down to price, that's where things get a little bit trickier. How do you pick that up? Well, usually you have to go after specifically targeting the category, right? You have to grow your category and your organic and your brand awareness. If you don't have a brandable product that people can remember, which is very difficult on Amazon because a lot of people don't remember brands that they buy off Amazon. But it's one of the things where if you have one that, it actually looks good, it works.
Very cool. All right. Well, I think that probably brings us to the end here. So, folks, hopefully this was helpful for everyone. If you would like to figure out, can my Amazon guy help me? Sure. You can book a call with our team. Go to myamazonguy.com/call. And we've been more than happy to take a look at your account and, just our team that Noah has trained on how to diagnose accounts can say, hey, do X, Y, and Z, and maybe it makes sense to work with us. And if it does, we'd love for you to be our next success story as well.
Never know. I might be even on one of those calls. I
He does
pop
take them.
into my team's calls all the time and just say hey to people and whatnot. So who knows? You might get a little one-on-one time with me as well.
Awesome. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. And with that, we'll see you later.
See everybody.